Alright, so I'm going to jump into a quick miniature lesson on simplifying square roots. This is something that comes up in some of the material that we're going to see soon, so I just wanted to address it if you haven't seen it before. Some of you may have seen it in previous years, but we'll do a quick mini lesson on it right now. That way you're all set up for the rest of the week. I wrote at the top here, and you can copy this down onto your own sheet of paper, is the kind of general idea here is when we're simplifying these square roots is that the pairs move outside of the radical, so outside of the square root house, and the singles have to stay inside. So what that means is, check this first one out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break these numbers into their prime factor tree. So I'm basically just going to say, okay, if I have the square root of 4, which I know some of you already know what it is, but I'm going to use this process as we get to more complicated pieces. I'm going to say what times what will give me 4. And so I know that that's going to be 2 times 2 gives me 4. And then notice we said up here that the pairs move out. And what I mean by that is we've got a pair of 2's. Okay, and so that they're going to move outside of the radical, and then there was nothing left over, right? There was no other numbers there, so this just turns into 2. If you didn't totally get it there, it's going to make a little bit more sense here because we're going to have some leftover numbers. This isn't a perfect square here, so we're going to get the square root of 8. So what I'm going to do is start to break that down. So I'm going to say, okay, well, the square root of 8 is 4 times 2. And then I can break down 4 even further because 4 is not a prime number yet. So I can say that's going to be 2 times 2. And then I can't break down the 2's anymore because it would just be 2 times 1. So that does me no good. Those are prime numbers. And so then what I can do is I can circle up a pair. Okay, they're going to move outside of the radical here. But then we have a leftover number here. We have this leftover 2. Okay, that leftover 2 has to stay inside that single because it didn't have a partner. And so my final answer here would be 2 times the square root of 2. So that's the simplified version there. Notice we don't care about this 4 anymore because we broke it into 2 times 2, so we've already accounted for it there. Let's check out another one here. Square root of 24. Same idea, what times what? There's different ways we can do this, and it doesn't matter which route you take. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to do 6 times 4. And then I'm going to say that's 3 times 2 and 2 times 2. Okay, and then I'm going to find some pairs here. I have a pair of 2's, right? It doesn't matter which 2 I circle. Okay, so I have a pair of 2's. The pair of 2's, they get married, they move outside of the radical house, but we have some singles left over that have to go back into the radical here, back into the square root. So we have a 3 and we have a 2. Those are left over, and we're going to multiply them together inside of that radical there. And so then my final answer would end up being 2 times the square root of 6. So once again, when you get a pair, that moves out. Right, notice I didn't write it 2 times, I just wrote whatever the pair number was outside, and then the leftover piece, the 3 and the 2 get multiplied together because they didn't have partners. They didn't have matching partners. Go to letter D, same idea here, square root of 32. There's a bunch of different ways I can do this one as well. I'm going to go ahead and do 16 times 2. And then 16 will break down into 4 times 4. And notice the 4's will break down even further, but the 4's are already a pair, right? So if I stop right there, it's going to save me some work because there's a pair of 4's right there. They get married, they move outside of the radical house. We do have a leftover number, right, a single here, which has to be back inside of the house. And so this would be 4 times the square root of 2. And then we get to letter E here. Okay, and letter E, we've got square root of 18. So once again, breaking this down, I'm going to go ahead and do 9 and 2. And then I can break down the 9 even further into 3 times 3. Again, I'm looking for pairs. I've got a pair of 3's this time. They're going to move outside the radical. The leftover, the single number, is 2. And so this would be 3 times the square root of 2. Once again, notice I don't care about the 9 anymore because I broke it down into 3 and 3, so it's already accounted for. Okay, that's the mini lesson on simplifying square roots. Thanks for watching.